Okay, so this is a texture tutorial for Cati, and I'm going to start off by saying that I'm definitely not a graphic designer, and I only use textures sometimes, but it took me a long time to figure out how to use them too, and so I figured I'd have at least the basics for you. And I'm going to start out by finding the example I'm going to use. So, hold on, I have to open up something here. Ignore my messy folder of messiness. Don't hate me. So I use Photoshop CS5, and so that's what I'm going to be using as an example for you. But this can also be done in other editing programs. Um, you just need to kind of adjust a little bit to figure out what your tools are actually capable of. I do know that I used to use a program called Jask Paint Shop Pro, and that also worked. So, okay, so what you're seeing right now is a graphics project that I did that actually has a lot of textures in it already. And so I'm just going to show you this to kind of show you the difference between what it looks like with a texture and without. And as you can see, I have a bunch of layers over here. Um, and a lot of those layers are color and like outline and that sort of thing, but a lot of them are also textures. So, I wonder if I can make all of these invisible at once. Nope. I guess not. Give me a moment. Visibility. Nope. Okay. Trying to think of the best way to show you this as an example. Okay, well, let's start with the background. So my background right now is this pink back here, and it's actually created by a couple different layers of color. Um, this one, this one, this one, and this one. But when I take all those away, what you see is this black and white image here. And I think this was like a texture of stone that I looked for to get this. But you can see how the background and how it looks is really dependent on that texture layer. And what makes it a texture layer isn't anything specific about the layer. It's not like a special kind of layer. It's just that it's that image in black and white in this layer here. And what makes it function as a texture versus like an image is actually this right here. So you have a lot of different options, and each of these options is going to make that like stone texture image blend into your colors differently. Right now I have it on screen, which is right here, but I could change it to darken, and then that's how it looks, and that sort of thing. And I know that it seems kind of complicated right now, but I'm going to start from the beginning, actually, and show you. And you don't have to just use these in graphics, you can also use these over photos. I've done it. It works just fine if you have the right kind of texture and whatever. So, what I'm going to do is open up a new image, and I'm just using an example, so it doesn't really matter what size it is. And I'm just going to fill it with purple because I feel like filling it with purple today. And I actually have a set of photos or not photos, but textures, images that I can use as textures saved because I always go and look for them. So I have a folder full already. Some of them have credit and some of them don't. I'd be more apt personally to use the ones with credit just so that I don't get in trouble by whoever owns them, but I also have this folder right here, which I got from a friend of mine who's a graphics designer who's like, yeah, whoever made these doesn't care about credit, da da da. So, and they're also a different type of textures, so I'll show you how to use those as well. So to start with, let's do one that's really easy to see. So I'll take the fur one, and what I'm going to do is, usually when I work with textures, it helps me to open it as a new image first and adjust it and then put it over the image I'm trying to texturize, in this case the purple rectangle. So I'm actually just going to open this as a regular image in Photoshop, and it's a really interesting texture, and I don't remember what I was going to use this for, but it'll work really well for the demonstration. So generally, for textures, it works best to have them in black and white, so that it doesn't interfere with the color of your image unless your goal is to change the color of your image. But in the case of this purple thing, I wouldn't want to make it not purple, I just want to make it have this texture. I was gesturing with my finger, not my mouse, so you can't see my finger. So what I do is I usually turn it black and white first, And I mean, you can be as picky about this as you want, depending upon what you want the texture to do. Because I want to be able to see the fur pattern, I'm probably going to go for something with more blacks in it and more contrast, versus something like this, which is really light. I'll go probably to either maximum black, or I'll go to, there was one that I liked, darker I liked. And so I'll go with this, and then I'll go and adjust contrast. So I'll have to go like that. And see how you can really see like the lines of the fur and stuff. And I mean, I'm doing this really quickly as an example, and you can adjust it however you want. But this is what I usually do. So then what I do is I Control A and select the entire image. Control C and copy it, which hopefully worked because my control key is sometimes stupid. And then Control V and paste the image. And you can see it's a layer, it's just a layer image, and you can, you know, do the usual, transform it however you want, distort it, make it at an angle, whatever. Just like a regular image. And then you decide where you want to put it. And this is where the actual texture part comes in, is you go over here to your layer properties, and it's called your blending mode. And usually what I do is I start at the top and use my arrow keys, which is what I'm doing right now, and literally just start flipping through and figuring out what one does the texturizing the best. And right now I'm really liking lighten down at the bottom edge down here. So if I was trying to get something to kind of blend seamlessly, I'd probably just use this section of the image and then go through and erase the rest. But it depends upon what I'm trying to do. And see, each blending option is going to blend the image into your color or your image differently. This one I also really like. Yeah, so it's really, really different. This one's cool, and there are some cases where it will kind of change the color of your image, and sometimes you want that and sometimes you don't. And that's why I turned it black and white before I tried to use it, because if I had kept it in color, it would really distort pretty much all the colors. This one I also really like with the exclusion. It's basically going to take the area of the texture and give it the negative color from the color it's on top of. And wasn't my beginning goal necessarily, but sometimes you'll find that when you go through the blending modes, you find one that's really interesting. And so basically you just pick the one you want, and there's a texture for you. Another thing you can do is adjust the opacity, I can't say that word out loud, and the fill in order to get it to show up a certain amount. So if you want a really faint texture, you'd probably bring them both down. If you want it really vivid, you'd keep them both up. That sort of thing. So I'm just going to add a second texture to this one just as an example. So I'll go through and get rid of, say I have one over my hair and my face. So I'll get rid of that layer. And do you see how the change in the swirls and stuff, it went away? It's because that was an image. That image was put on as a vivid light layer with a 60% opacity, and that is where all these little swirls come from that aren't the paintbrush. So say I wanted to make myself furry, because that's the one we're working with, instead of swirly. I would copy this and I would paste it as a new layer. Okay? And I would move that layer over to my face, hair, general area. And I would make sure that this layer is positioned under and over the right things. So in this case, my hair and my face are one layer, so it's going to be either over or under both of those. But if I had been smart when I made this image, my hair and my face would be different layers. Like on Robert's face, it's different. So yeah, see, I can be over his face but under his hair, and that sort of thing. And so I put that there, and then that's where you start cycling through the different blending options to figure out if you find one that does something cool. Like, take that for example. I kind of like what that does to my face, but let's say I want it on just my face and not my hair. In that case, I would unselect the texture layer and go select the layer of my face, which is hiding somewhere, so give me a minute. It is here, I promise. I promise I have a face layer, I just don't know where it is. There it is. And then I'd use one of my selection tools, probably my magic wand, because I'm working mostly with a singular color. And because I'm on my face layer, it's going to select the color of my face. Like I said, if I had been smart, I would have made my face and my hair different layers so that it would get these little spaces in here. But I wasn't smart when I made this picture, so I'd select my face because that's where I want my texture to be. And then I would invert my selection, so it's selecting everything but my face. Go to my eraser tool, and, whoops, not that. That's not what you want to do. There, reselect my texture, and go through and erase it everywhere but my face, for example. And you probably want to make that bigger and not spend forever on it like I'm doing because I'm derp today. Blah, blah, blah. So now what you have is Sarah with a furry face, and that's really badly done because I'm kind of just showing you as an option. But then I still had the option to change how that layer blends into my face, and I missed a spot. Whee! And so I would go and find, like this one's also really cool, find how it works and leave it there. And you can also do this on photos. They're less common on photos, but if you want to put a texture over a GIF, that sort of thing, you can do that, and you can do like textures in people's faces in photos, and you know, you just mess around with it and you end up with that. So that's the really quick, really basic texture tutorial. I find most of my textures on DeviantArt. I make sure to read the usage rules to make sure that I can use it off of DeviantArt, because most people who provide textures they have like a set of rules that they'd like people to follow, and I will try my best to respect that. Also, sometimes I use my own photography as a texture if I can't find the one that I want. And yeah, so there you have it. That's the basic texture tutorial for Katie. If you need any more help, love, let me know, and I'll do my best to help. I love you, bye! So I also realized that I mentioned that I was going to show you how to use a different kind of texture, and then forgot. So let me do that. So this is the same sample purple rectangle we were using earlier, but we don't need the fur anymore. And in my texture folder, I have this folder of textures in the texture folder that Nick gave me. And these are created by graphic designers, specifically to be textures that are easy to use. And the difference between these and the fur one, some of these are kind of gross, I apologize. The difference between these and the fur one is that it's not an entire image, so that if you wanted to make it look like there was a burn hole in, say, a car door, you could literally choose one of these textures. I don't know why there are flesh wounds in this folder. I'm picking a different one. Sorry. Or say a crack in the ground. And you can pick one of these and do the same thing. You can you don't always have to open your texture as a new image. You can actually just like open it over the top. That works too. Same thing. And it's the same basic idea, except that if you look at it, these are made in a graphics program, so they're already digital images, which means that they're made to act as textures, which also means that once you place them somewhere, they're gonna look a little better when you make them as textures. And so like something like this, you can't even see the background. If I was using, or like this one is flawless, you can't tell that it's an image, it's just like purple crumbling everywhere, and sometimes that's exactly what you want from a texture, if you're not trying to like make it a paper texture, fur texture, whatever. And you'll be able to find these on stock websites. You could probably just Google free fractal textures, I don't know, free digital textures. I'm not entirely sure how Nick found these, but so yeah, so those are also the other kind of textures, same idea, made a little differently out of a different kind of image. They blend differently, so if you can't get the effect you want with the other kind of texture, it might be in your benefit to Google for some of these, so like digital image textures. And they work the same way, they're just a different kind of image. So yeah, figured I'd add that at the end. Alright.